right, peoples, what is happening? It's Tuesday night, and I got a good one for you today. All right, so I was on a talk today with one of my clients, and we were talking about, honestly, he asked me, what drives you? How did you get to be where you are? Like, what's going on, man? So I gave him my full breakdown and backstory. If you ever want to hear from that, that would be a time for a different discussion. But we're going to talk about identity, right? Very important. And this is something that's going to either make or break anything that you do in your progress. All right? So what do we mean by identity? It's just the way you view yourself. It's the way you see yourself. It's the beliefs you hold about yourself. And it really is like the architect of your destiny. So it drives me crazy when I see people that put like in their Instagram bios or whatever, like, oh, mediocre powerlifter, or like, they're writing things in their caption, my poverty bench. And when you write about that stuff, even if it's completely joking and like completely this and that, you just reinforce it over and over and over again. I think it's very important to be careful about the words you use about yourself, even jokingly. Like, have you ever seen somebody that constantly joke about their anxiety actually be in control of it? Absolutely not. It doesn't happen. And I challenge you to find me an example of it. So when we think about who we are and our place in the world and what we want to accomplish, how you view yourself is very important. So there's a couple different ways to attack this. First is the language that you use, right? I am somebody who blank. And when you want to achieve bigger things, you need to audit the things that you tell yourself. Or when you go through frustrating times, does your mind default to certain phrases or certain thought patterns? Mine does. And I've got to work really, really hard to overcome it. But, being aware is really the first step. So a lot of people think I'm no good or I'll never be good enough. And it's okay if you're, not number one in the world right now, but you can generate a lot of forward momentum by starting to tell yourself things like, I'm somebody who progresses quickly. Nobody progresses quicker than me. I am making progress. So then we shift the focus away from the negative, the things we don't have, and we take it to the here and the now about what we're doing about it. So think about all those times when you can rephrase, if you're hurt, you could say, my shoulder is hurt, or you could say, I am recovering, right? There's so many deeper levels to this. Your thoughts literally create these different vibrations. They've done these weird, crazy experiments where they send different sound frequencies and they will write literally a certain word on jars of water, and their physical vibration starts to change. Like the actual crystal structures of these waters start to change. So when we want to organize ourselves and organize our being into a certain mode of existence, the words and the actions that we're taking create a literal vibrational pattern that is pushing us in one direction or the other. So if we constantly joke about our anxiety all the time, blah, 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 your brain is just hearing that, and picking up these subconscious signals that you have that, instead of, I'm somebody who's working on my confidence. It's a different way to pose that. Or I put myself in challenging situations. Then you look at it as something that is a objective, is a thing that can be worked on and improved on, instead of just your natural default state where you're going to fall back into those repetitive patterns. So when we want to achieve big goals, let's put this in the context of Strongman, right? If you want to, make it to OSG, right? I am a world-class athlete. These are the things you need to start telling yourself, and then you need to identify the traits and behaviors of what that actually means, because it's not good enough to just say these words, to just have mantras. We want to actually think of them as incantation. And incantation is invoking action and calling in energy and blessings through our words. So we're going to use incantations to instill and embody those traits and those habits of this thing we are becoming. And it's very important to use active words when you're saying this, not I want to have this or someday I'll have this. It's I am becoming, I am, all of this, present tense, now. This is how we step into that state. And when we just do it over and over and over and over again, it becomes our default wiring, our default mode of being. So we just one day wake up and realize like, oh shit, I have done it now. And that's when the magic really starts to take off. That's where this, conversation with one of my clients went this morning is, you just keep stepping in to that new version of yourself. You use these patterns of behavior, these beliefs that future version of yourself is going to have. You use them right now, and then somewhere, some way, you just realize that you have become this person. So, if we want to think about, I'll give you an example from my journey, right? At one point in time, I accepted I wanted to be, one of the best. And I the thing that really changed it for me was not this want, but it was this self-belief that I actually do have the tools to do what it takes. But I had to do a real honest self-assessment and personal audit about where I am. So my own personal examples, my shoulder pressing was not great, okay? I tried over and over and over and over again to try different training patterns or work on this technique, work on that technique, but it didn't happen. So I was looking at these people that I wanted to be like and be in the company of, and what did I notice? Well, hey, they all have, these great coaches. I was looking at the people that had really, really impressive shoulder pressing ability at lighter sizes. And I ended up finding that a few of them had a coach in common, actually. So I reached out to that guy, Max McCall, and he's been my coach ever since, right? So had to audit my shoulder pressing. Next, as soon as I got deeper into competing, I did make it to OSG in 2023, but I finished 19th, and that's cool, but that's not good enough. So again, I was looking at where do I really want to be? I want to be top 10. I want to be in the finals. What do all of those guys have in common that I don't have? And the biggest thing that jumped out was they all have competitive experience. Now, what we need to realize is that we're trying to embody these emotions and these feelings of that future self now. So we're shifting and merging our timelines together. But we also have to have the patience and the disassociation from the end timeline, because thinking about what's in the future is anxiety. Like, that doesn't do us any good. We just have to do what we can right here, right now. And sometimes that means setting a definitive target end goal that could be a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now. So when I was understanding that in 1 year, I want to be one of these people that's in the top 10, what does that mean for me? That means that I need to be somebody who has high-level competitive experience. So I knew that. I pictured myself being that person, and then I reverse engineered the system for what that would take. And for me, that was competing at Strongman Corp Regionals, South Carolina Strongest Man, USS Nationals, and then the OSG Regionals. So these were 3 tough, heavy, high competitive shows that gave me a lot of immediate experience. So by the time I showed up 1 year later, I had those 3 shows under my belt with a lot more experience. I had taken some bumps on the way. I learned some lessons, but like everybody else that finished in the top 10 with me, we've all gone through the similar process. So I did the steps. I became that person that was capable of making it to the top 10 in worlds because of those experiences, because I stepped into that person that needed to be somebody with a lot of competitive experience. Now, something else that happened along the way too is I got linked up with my nutrition coach, Will Clark, and he had just casually posted about some of his clients one day. And one of them was Jake Allen, who won Europe's Strongest Man 2 years ago. Another was Dan Benson, who's one of the best 90 kilos in the world. He's still got the 90 kilo deadlift record. And I had another realization. I was like, wow, these guys also, even though I have a pretty good understanding of what I'm doing with my, nutrition, like maybe this could be even better. Maybe it could help me dial in a little harder. And guess what? It has, So when I am becoming this person, like I'm viewing myself as this athlete that's one of the best in the world, we just continually refine along the process with this constant self audit of like, again, what are the tools that I need? To be that best athlete on the floor, I've talked a lot about this decision fatigue. We want to eliminate as much chatter and as much noise from our head as possible. So when I have a coach that I trust and I believe in, there's a couple benefits to that. First off is like, I believe in the program and the work that took me to this point. So I'm going to trust my training and I'm going to be able to just get into a good, confident place where I believe in what I'm doing and then perform to the highest degree. So I'm not thinking, could I have trained differently? Could I have trained smarter? Could I have done a different program? No, all of that's gone. Now, same with my nutrition. Could I have eaten better? Could I have, done this differently? Could I have, you name it, right? Like, could I have water cut differently? Could I feel better right now? But the answer is no, because I trust and believe that what I'm doing is all good. So I just forget about it. And then I focus in on what is the technique I need to win right now. Something I've done over and over again, so I can just tap into it and do it again. And then I get to enjoy the process. Competing is the most fun of this all. The training and the working up to it, that part for me gets a little more stressful because I naturally put a lot of pressure on myself that I have to be perfect, and I understand that I don't, but I still have a problem with that as I get into my training. But getting back to who do I need to be on the floor? It's that person that knows without a doubt my training has worked, my nutrition has worked. I've been really doing the best that I can with my recovery protocols, and then that's all there is to it. So if you show up as somebody who is always putting in the work and believes that you have done everything you can in your process to do your best, then there's nothing to lose at all. Because here's the other reality of the situation is we want to finish on the podium. We want to finish as high as possible. We want to have these big achievements, but it's always about long-term progression. So, I go into these competitions every time thinking, man, I would have kicked the crap out of myself last year. And when I know that, it sort of just takes some pressure off of me and how I'm going to perform because I am the best version of myself now, and because of that, I just have a little bit more confidence to perform, and then say, God forbid I have a bad showing, that's going to sting and that's going to burn a little bit, but I'm going to be so proud of all the work I put in. I mean, I'm looking at myself in this, camera because I got my laptop facing towards me. If I were to go back and show you what I looked like a year ago, I did not have the same physique I have. I even see it in my face. I see it in my shoulders. I feel it in my traps. So there's stuff like that where it's dude, I'm growing. I'm making it happen. But it's all through the way that I see myself. And there's doing this through daily repetitive action with your incantations. Again, we're not talking about mantras. We're talking about incantations. This is charged mantras that invoke and call in action to get you where you want to go. You cannot just say the words over and over again. You have to charge them with emotion and action. That's what an incantation is. So we have our incantations, we have our habits, we have our disciplines, and we just subtly brainwash ourselves into becoming this person. How awful it feels to go through my training session the other day. That was 2.5, maybe 3 hours. It was 95 degrees in the gym by the time I was done with 70% humidity. That shit was so tough. But man, when I am out of there, I just keep thinking over and over, wow, I worked so hard today. I really got after it. And I also tell myself, I know there's a lot of my competition that doesn't get this. So in this heat training, it builds grit, it builds a lot of cardiovascular adaptations, and it makes you work harder. So I have this belief going into when I go training or go work out and compete, in an AC expo hall, like I automatically have like a 10% boost. So when I have a really good session and I kill it in this heat, like especially now, it's not as hot as it was like even 3 weeks ago. Like I start to see these things come around for me, and I just get a little bit more excited about who I am and who I am becoming, which is my identity. But guess what? Kind of bringing this back to the top is this doesn't happen if I go in and say, oh, it's so hard. I don't know if I can get through this. It's like, I'm going to figure out a way to get through this because that's who I am. I don't have any choices. Like, I see myself as this person who is one of the best in the world. And I was thinking about this in the terms of like somebody like Hasmeyer or Pujanowski, right? Like, I've had this weird, stupid thought in my head a lot of times. Like, I wish I had stronger people to train with. I've trained by myself for a long, long time, and it's all good. But sometimes I would like get outside of myself and I get upset about things. And like when I was in high school, I used to train with this kid, Travis, man, love that kid. But he was like 100 pounds bigger than me. Travis was deadlifting almost 800, as a 21-year-old. He was shoulder push pressing in the mid 400s, which are two things I've not done even 15 years later. But I was always inspired to like kick his ass because it is what it is, man. It's what you want to do with your training partners. You want to find ways to beat them. I was also surrounded by like, the gym where Ronnie Coleman worked out. Ronnie was there. You had Branch Warren, Johnny Jackson. You had all these guys who nobody would ever know their names. I mean, Rob Totley and Brian Jones. These guys would come in on Friday afternoon. They were both 800-pound deadlifters. Nobody that's watching this is going to know who they were, but there was just so many dudes like that were around me all the time that it's just so inspiring. So like I've always kind of had this thought on the outside of my head where it's like, man, I wish I had stronger people to work out with. I wish I had this. And I had this weird moment of realization where it's like, well, what do you think Kaz was doing? What do you think Pujanowski was doing? What do you think Luke Stoltman does? What do you think Hooper does? What do you think Hathor does? Guess what, man? As like humbly as I can possibly put this, like when you're one of the strongest people walking the planet, you don't get to fucking work out with somebody stronger than you. So if that's really what I desire, then in some places, I'm going to have to be the strongest in the room. And that means like accepting the burden of when there's a hard task that I have to just take some honest self-assessments and self-audits about like, why am I feeling that way? Okay. And this always circles back to identity. Am I telling myself something weird in my head when I'm having a hard time? Why? Why do I believe that? It takes some work to like really dig into that. And that's, why I think a lot of people get stuck and plateau. It's not because of any like physical training program or they're doing the wrong things. A lot of people can eat well, sleep well, train well, and still just be totally stuck for years and years and years. How do I know? Because I was there too for a long time. But it takes some serious work to, understand those deeper subconscious layers and the programs that you are running in your head that's keeping you where you're at. Like it's not going to take you to look very far to see somebody, one of your friends, somebody you compete with regularly, somebody at your gym you don't really talk to, but you look and be like, wow, that person has not changed once at all, or if they have, it's been by 2% in 5 years. What is their problem? It's these patterns. It's this subconscious programming. It's all it is. So this is why I like to talk about this stuff, because if you get that part right, if you start seeing yourself in a different manner, then you start believing and acting as that person that's a different person, then it all changes. It all completely changes. I look like a different person than I was 5 years ago. And it's all because of actions, beliefs, thought patterns, and being face-to-face and honest with the shit that was holding me back. I really, truly believed for a long time that I was not good enough, or I did not want to commit to be at this level. Obviously, I've changed my tune. For the 5-minute American deadlift record holder to, making it to the World's Strongest Man finals, like I of course believe that I'm going to push it even higher. But like at the end of the day, like I did it, you know? So I have no reason at all to think anything else other than I deserve to keep pushing it because I've proved it through the actions and the results that I'm getting. And that's the other important part too. When we're talking about always auditing what you're doing is, are you getting the results that you want? Your results are your reality. So if you keep fucking up, you keep falling short, you're still fat, you're still 30% body fat. You know, it can be hard to accept these things. It can be hard to accept that, like, you're barely making any fucking progress. You've gained 30 pounds in the last year. You're no closer to the top than you have been ever. So what are you going to do? Are you going to cope? Are you going to, fall back to your vices? Or are you going to take some honest self-assessment and understand, like, hey, I am not getting this done. So then you have two choices. One, you do some serious inner work and you start to figure out exactly what's going on, or you hand the reins off to somebody else. I got to this point with my pressing where I wasn't getting it done. And I stopped pretending like I was going to figure it out. Maybe I could have in 5 years, but time is now, baby. The time is now. So I had enough. I had enough of just like trying. And you know what? The solution to me getting stronger, to me getting better shoulders, and also just becoming a better strongman in general, were all these different passive avenues that I probably would not have considered myself. So you need to get outside of yourself. You need to get out of your head. It actually makes you more of a awesome person yourself to get help from others. That was one of these biggest lessons that I learned when I was shifting my identity, is that it doesn't make me any less to ask others for help. And in fact, makes me more. It makes me more powerful. It makes me more awesome. It makes me stronger. It makes me healthier. It makes me happier to have a team around me. Think about any person you have ever idolized in your life, any hero you've ever looked up to, and it all comes down to their support system. There's no single person that did every single thing themselves, and you are lying to yourself if you think that's the case. They've got coaches, nutritionists, chiropractors. They've got friends, family, whatever, some combination of that thing that is their support structure that builds them up so they can stand at the top. This is why I say a lot now, there is no I in strongman. You cannot get it done yourself. I dare you to if you think you're going to, but like, good luck. You know, and I don't mean that harshly. Like, I believe in everybody. Everybody's got the opportunity and the possibility to become great, but you're never going to find anybody that makes it to the very top without the guidance, the mentoring, and the support of others. So that's all I got to say tonight, guys. Nice, long, rambling stream of consciousness. But if you're not getting what you want, you need to spend some time thinking about who you are and be totally honest with yourself about the thought patterns you have, the beliefs that you hold, and the actions and habits that you are taking day in, day out. Do those habits and actions reflect who you want to be? And again, not just who you want to be, but who you are. Right? So that's that. Facts. Getting after it. So, all right, my people, I appreciate you guys for watching. Bang, bang. Join clubstrongman.com. #1 online free right now private strongman community. So get on in there for lots of cool stuff. Just put up a new course on back bends. Basically, if you want to figure out how to get really strong and super athletic, I'm giving you all the fucking tools, man. They're all in there. So get out of your own way. Join clubstrongman.com and talk soon. Have a championship night.